Hello everyone, this is part 6 of What If Naruto Was Adopted by Kakashi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Hana Hyuga was sitting in the garden taking a rest. She did that a lot these days it seemed. She had been going in for treatments but she wasn't getting any better, in fact she was just getting weaker, and some days she couldn't even get out of bed because of the pain she was in was too much for her at times. She tried to put on a brave front along with her husband, but she knew that even Hinata knew something was wrong. The doctors had told her that her condition had worsened and that taking her eyes was no longer an option. It had run too far too fast in her and was now attacking her brain. But today was one of her better days. They were looking for a new healer from outside the village who might be able to help her. She didn't want to just give up and die, she wanted to stay with her family. She watched the flowers blowing in the soft wind and she could see how beautiful the day was. It was one of the things she loved about this village, there was just this timeless beauty to it all. Hana-sama. She turned to see one of the branch members bowing slightly to her. It is time for the meeting now. Yes, I'll be right there. She stood up and walked there, making sure that any sign of her weakness wasn't showing. She was a proud Hyuga and wouldn't look weak in front of others, and besides she was the matriarch of the clan and she couldn't be seen as weak. But it wasn't easy, even though her husband had asked her to take a few days rest now and then, but she didn't like being in a bed all day, she couldn't stand that. She was just walking when she felt another stab of pain in her head, but this time it was much worse. She felt sick to her stomach and her nerves were on fire. She only made a choking sound before she fell to the ground. The Hyuga member was scared to death at this and ran to her, calling her name. When he put her onto her back, he noticed a trail of blood coming out of her nose and ears. She wasn't waking up and he yelled out for help. Across the village in the ninja academy, Hinata was spacing off as Iruka was going through a lecture on concealment. She had been having trouble focusing lately and she didn't know what to do. This thing with her mother was scaring her. Her mother kept saying that she would get better, but she didn't seem to be. In fact, she only seemed to be getting worse. She was scared and didn't know what to do. It didn't go unnoticed as well among her friends, as they saw the change in her as well. Normally she was just the shy girl, but now she was practically withdrawn most of the time. It was really worrying for them to see her like this. Naruto had even tried to cheer her up with his usual attitude and threw in a few pranks, but she never once reacted. Of course everyone else did and he got his usual detention after school, but he was still worried about her. He had talked to his dad and he didn't know much about what was going on either. Naruto had talked with his close circle of friends and no one seemed to know other than she was worried about her mother. Ino's mother heard that Hinata's mother wasn't feeling well lately and no one could remember the last time she had came to the school to pick her up. Usually it was her father or her uncle. So they would watch and see if they could try and be helpful for her. Naruto, however, wanted to know firsthand what the problem was. After all, Hana Hyuga was one of the first adults that he had made friends with and he was worried too if she was sick. He waited for the last bell to ring as he packed away his school stuff and saw her slowly walking to the door. Naruto, you think that Hinata will be okay? He turned to see Ino there with Sakura looking just as worried. I don't know, but I intend to find out for sure what's going on, Ino. He told them and both girls nodded, wishing him luck. They knew how close the two were. Naruto managed to catch up with Hinata as she was waiting for someone from her family and he walked up next to her. Hinata-chan, what's wrong? You've not been yourself for a while and it's starting to worry everyone. She blushed a bit and she looked at the ground. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to worry everyone. I'm just worried for my mother. She then felt a warm hand grab hers and she gasped, looking at him in surprise as she stared into his blue emotional eyes and she felt the warmth and comfort coming from them. She gave a small smile as she felt his strength reaching out to her. Hinata-sama, a familiar voice said to her. They looked to see Neji there, but there was something wrong. His face was grace and there was just something about him that said there was something really wrong going on. En Neji Nikan. Neji looked crestfallen as he spoke the words to her. Hinata, there's something happened to Hana-sama. It was then that Naruto felt Hinata grip his hand tightly and he squeezed it back, letting her know that she wasn't alone. Hyuga compound. Hinata ran into the compound hearing about her mother. Thankfully Naruto was there with her as she wasn't sure if she could have made it back on her own. The sky was getting dark and she wanted to know where her mother was. Finally she saw her uncle there and ran over to him. Uncle Hisashi. He knelt down to the young girl as she came running up with tears in her eyes. He noticed his son and Naruto with her both had on looks that wanted to know what was going on. He sighed as he placed a hand on her shoulder, seeing her nearly break out into sobs. What's wrong with mother? She asked him. Hinata. As you know, she's been very sick lately and it looks like it's been getting worse. Your mother didn't want you to worry and she put on a brave face. She wanted to fight this and hope that she could beat it, but she's going to be okay though, right? She'll get better. Naruto asked him, and Hisashi couldn't lie to them. They were all going to be ninja one day and they needed to face the reality that people died. He just wished it wasn't such a harsh lesson on him, especially his niece who was the kindest person he had known in his life. Looking at her face broke his heart inside and he sadly shook his head. Hinata broke down into sobs as her uncle cradled her against him. Inside one of the rooms of the mansion, Hisashi was with his wife who was sleeping now as the healer had given her something to take away the pain she had been feeling. He looked down at his wife. She was so very pale and so very weak. They had both been hoping that they could have beaten this, but the healer didn't look like he could do anything. I'm sorry Hisashi-sama, but it's gone too far. I'm afraid that the disease has just spread too far, too fast. There is nothing more we can do other than make her comfortable. Hisashi didn't want to admit that his wife was dying. There had to be something that could be done, something that could save his wife. But he knew they had tried everything they could think of. They tried looking for specialists in this, but the few they were able to find hadn't been able to do anything. Bloodline poisoning was a rare disease and so little research had been done into it, plus it was devastation. Sometimes it wasn't caught in time, so there had been deaths that until after an autopsy revealed what had caused the deaths. He walked over to her and stroked her long hair lovingly. How much longer? I'm sorry, but it's in the final stages. She may or may not last the night. Hisashi nodded his head, closing his eyes, and told him to leave. When the man was gone, that's when he lost all the strength in his legs and he fell down next to her. He never cried in public, but for the first time in years he felt the sting of tears on his face. He held her hand and kissed it, knowing that this was the last night he would have with the woman that was the love of his life, the bright spot of his soul, the only woman he had and would ever love. She was everything to him, and the mother of his precious daughters, and he couldn't bear to lose her. It felt like someone was ripping his insides out, like he was falling and the end was not in sight. He didn't know how long he knelt there until he felt a hand gripping his own and he looked up into his wife's face. Please, my love, I don't want to see you like this, she told him. I can't help it, the healers. He couldn't even finish the sentence. How long? She asked him, knowing full well what was happening to her. It was strange. She had known she had been dying for months, and yet here she was on death's door and she was strangely calm about it all. Maybe it was because she could finally stop fighting. She could finally just stop and rest. She was so very tired of fighting this. She was tired of the near constant pain, the tiredness, and the worry of what would happen to her and her family. Now she didn't have to fight anymore, and she knew her family would be in pain, but it would endure. They were strong and she knew that they would live on, and it wasn't like she had a bad life. She found love and had 2 beautiful daughters. She just wished she just had a little more time. She wanted to see Hanabi take her first steps, to see her girl's first crush, first date, first heartbreak, first time she caught them doing something inappropriate with a boy like her own mother had with her. She wanted to see them fall in love. She wanted to see them get married and to see grandchildren that she could spoil rotten. She wanted to be with her husband through all of this, to calm him down the first time the girls would bring a boy home. There was just so much, but now there was just no more time for it. Please, Hisashi-kun. I want to see my family. I want to see them one last time before the end. He nodded his head and kissed her lips, and she kissed them back. It would be their last kiss, and she felt so sad at that. She wanted to say so much to him, and yet there were only a few words that could say what she felt for him. I love you so much. You made me happy, and I'm glad that I had you in my life. I love you just as much, Hana-chan, and I'll love you forever, he told her as he caressed her flawless face, burning the feeling of it into his mind. He went to get the others and gather them. He found that Naruto was with his daughter and had thought of telling the boy to go back home, but seeing how he was comforting his daughter, maybe it was all right to let him stay. After all, in a way he had become family to the Hyugas. He had befriended both Hinata and Neji, and he knew that despite his attitude and those pranks of his, he had a good heart. He turned to see his brother there and he asked him to get Hanabi from the nanny that was looking after his youngest daughter. It was time to gather up the family for a final farewell. Hinata came in seeing her mother propped up on her bed holding her baby sister. She looked so pale and weak and she was glad that she was holding Naruto's hand. She needed him here for this as she walked over to her bedside seeing her entire family in the room. Hana looked over at her oldest daughter and smiled at the sight of her holding the boy's hand. It was so cute and she was happy to see it, for one of the last things she wanted to see was that her daughter would be cared for. Hinata, come closer. Why yes mother, Hinata said trying not to break down again. Hana reached out and caressed her daughter's face and smiled at her. I'm so sorry that I won't see the beautiful woman that you'll grow into, Hinata my dear. I'm sorry that I won't see Hanabi either, and I'm so sorry that I have to leave you all. No, I don't want you to go mother. Hinata cried out, clutching her mother's arm. I don't want to either dear, but my time is nearly up and I wanted to spend my last moments with the people I love the most. I tried to stay strong and to keep myself alive. I never gave up, but I guess I wasn't strong enough. Hinata, just know that I'll always love you and your sister and that I'll always be watching. Hinata just nodded her head, crying her heart out, and Hana looked over to Naruto seeing the red eyes the boy had from his own tears. She smiled at the boy with the mask on and she remembered that first day when a curious child with whisker marks on his face came up and asked who her daughter was who had been hiding behind her legs. They had been good friends for one another and Naruto had always been there for her daughter. Naruto-kun, Hana said to him. Why yes Hana-san. Naruto said to her it was the few times he ever used the term, san, with someone and meant it. Please look after Hinata for me, watch over her while I can't be here physically. Be there for her and always be someone she can depend on. She asked this child. Naruto nodded, I promise and I never break my promises. I know that's why I asked, Hana said with a small smile. The night was a cold one, there was no moon in the sky as it was blocked by clouds and they were there to help make Hana more comfortable. Hana talked to her family and she didn't look sad, she didn't want their last memory of her being sad. But then she was feeling so tired, she wanted to rest, she just wanted to rest a bit before the end. I'm so tired, she said weakly. I know you are, Hiashi said trying to not choke on a sob that he was holding back and held her hand. Rest now my love. I always loved you my husband, look after our family. I'm happy to have had a family like this. I love you all so, very. She closed her eyes and she looked like she was falling asleep. Hiashi with a shaking hand felt for his wife's pulse, there it was but it was weakening. It was slowing down more and then finally it stopped. He waited for a minute but the life was gone, he used his Byakugan and he saw the fading light of her chakra, he watched as it slowly dimmed to nothing. Then he deactivated his eyes and hung his head as his wife was dead. Hanabi suddenly broke out crying in her uncle's arms almost as if she could sense that her mother was dead. Hinata felt her eyes water up and when Neji tried to put a hand on her shoulder she turned and ran. Hinata. Naruto called after her watching her go he turned to see Hinata's father fall gently to his knees holding his dead wife's hand. Hisashi looked at the two boys. Go and find her, he said to them gently and they nodded and ran off. He walked over to his brother and knew the pain he was going through. When he lost his wife it had nearly devastated him as well. He would let his brother grieve for his wife and then he would help him deal with her loss. He had helped him when his own wife had died and now it seemed fate was switching the positions. He walked out of the room to help and put Hanabi down for bed and maybe see if he could make the child less upset. Naruto ran through the night looking for Hinata. He tried the playground first but she wasn't there and then he tried the ramen stand, the school, and anywhere else he could think of. He wanted to find her and he wanted to make sure she was safe. He was still trying to process that Hinata's mother was dead, it just didn't seem real to him. She had been one of the adults that always had been nice to him and she was everything that he figured a mother should be. Sometimes he was envious that Hinata had a mom like that but now she was gone. He felt his tears sting his eyes feeling like someone had ripped something out of him, he hated this feeling but he had to search for Hinata. Then he remembered one of the areas they played together since they were younger. It was an open area in a forested part of the village. His dad took him there to train sometimes for teaching him wilderness stuff, although to Naruto it had been more like camping with his dad. He had showed Hinata that once and he made a promise to her that they would camp out there one day. He ran to that place and his lungs were burning and he stopped scanning the darkness. He thought that he had guessed wrong and was about to move on when sobbing noises got his attention. He followed him around a tree and there huddled there was Hinata crying. He hated seeing Hinata cry, he felt like crying himself and he did something he hadn't done in a long time, he pulled down his mask for her to see his face. He bent down next to her and gently touched her shoulder. Hinata-chan. Hinata jumped at the touch and turned to see who it was. She slowly saw in the moonlight that it was a boy, but then it took her a moment to know who it was. It was Naruto, but without his mask. She hadn't seen his face in over a year and she had missed it. She missed seeing his smiles and those whisker marks on his face. His blue eyes, which usually were full of energy and happiness, were filled with sadness. She tried to speak, but her throat had a huge lump in it, and she just launched herself into Naruto, burying her face into his chest. Naruto was shocked by her sudden movement, but hearing her cry like this was tearing him up inside. He just held her close, trying to comfort her, but he felt his own tears falling as well. He cried for her pain, the pain of her family, and for his own pain at having one of the precious people in his life taken away. They just held each other as they cried on each other, trying to find comfort with each other. WWY. She sobbed into his chest, clutching at his clothing with her fist. I don't know, he said softly, choking back his tears, holding her tightly to him. Why my mother? She asked again. I wish I knew Hinata-chan, she was the best mother I knew. He told her as she was shaking a lot from her crying. I know this, I wish I had a mother like that. I never knew my mother, but there were times that I wished I had Hana-san as a mother. You were so lucky to have a mother like her. Hinata buried herself even more into Naruto. His warm body helped to keep the cold she was feeling away, and it wasn't just the cold of the night but from the death of her own mother that was affecting her. She didn't want to let go of Naruto, she felt safe in his arms, she felt like he could help keep the pain from swallowing her whole. She felt his hand stroking her hair and her back and she cried herself into exhaustion. Naruto heard that she had stopped and looked down to see that she wasn't awake anymore. He pulled on his mask and hoisted her onto his back as he started to carry her all the way back to her home. It was long and hard since he wasn't used to having all that weight on his back, but he endured. He wanted to see her home, and when he got to the gates the guards let him in immediately as they went to send word to stop looking for her. Naruto found Neji, who had on a sad look in his eyes. They looked at one another, not sure what they could say in a moment like this. Can you help me put her to bed? Naruto asked him. He nodded his head as he led the way without a word. They got to her room and Neji pulled back the covers as Naruto placed her in there. They took off her shoes and covered her up. Either one knew what they could do for her. Although Naruto didn't want to go home, he didn't want to leave her alone. Thankfully his father came to find him, and when he learned of everything they both stayed to look after her for the night. Hinata's father had not been seen. He had been too wrapped up in his own pain to function in public for the moment. His brother was standing guard over his room with a grim look on his face. The loss of Hana would hit the clan hard, but it hit family the hardest. She had always treated him and Neji well and he respected her. To lose your wife was the greatest pain a husband could endure, just as he knew his twin was enduring this dark night. The next day and for the rest of the week Hinata and Naruto didn't come to school. Their friends found out by the end of the day why when Iruka told the class about Hinata's mother. Those that knew Hinata felt horrible for the girl. Someone was asked to bring the schoolwork to Naruto and Hinata so they didn't fall behind, and Ino and Sakura were the first to do it. Everyone went to visit Hinata the next day and they found her with Naruto as he was helping her through it all. They had never seen Hinata look like that in their lives, and the image would be burned into their memories. They were there for her, and even though she didn't show it, she was thankful for the support of her friends. Naruto refused to leave her side for long periods of time. For the first few days he actually stayed with the Hyugas in a spare room as Hinata had trouble sleeping. He would always be there for her and she would use him to cry on. After the funeral Hinata was in a deep depression. Neji knew what it was like to lose a mother at a young age. Himself was a very strong comfort for his cousin as he knew his father was helping Hinata's father as well. That whole year was tough all around on Hinata, and her friends kept by her side, and Naruto most of all was always there for her. It took time, but Hinata finally did smile again and laughed again, but the pain would always be there for her. Naruto could see when she was starting to feel that pain and would do everything to cheer her up. But by the end of the first year in school Hinata had managed to cope with her mother's death and was thankful for having so many people there for her. The last few years had its ups and downs. Naruto of course was doing well in school, and although he was doing great at the physical skills of a ninja, Sasuke beat him out of the scholastic scores. Over the years they had formed a strong rivalry, always trying to outdo the other in everything. He had to admit though one of his favorite moments had been when Sasuke had been a bit too annoying. Naruto tried out a technique his father taught him. Mainly you pulled someone under the ground so just their head was left. Naruto knew this one well since his own father pulled it on him during sparring matches from time to time, and he hated that move. But he had to admit pulling it on someone else was sure worth it. Sasuke had been livid as he tried to get out of the ground, and just to add insult to injury he had also taken one of his father's books. He still remembered the day with Sasuke glaring at him and Kiba on the ground holding his sides. Oh man, this is great. Kiba roared as his very own dog Akamaru that he had gained last year. His family had finally thought it was time for him to get his own dog, and he loved that day when on his birthday no less he had been given his own puppy. The two were inseparable, and the small white dog was barking as well. Shikamaru had to admit it was pretty funny, and so did Choji. Thankfully it was just the guys at the moment as well. Hatake, you better get me out of this, or so help me I'll kick your masked ass, Sasuke said at him. And here I was going to read you a story, Naruto said sitting down and pulled out one of his father's books. Hey, what's that? Kiba asked. Naruto grinned under his mask. Just something of my dad's. Now let's see. Oh, here's a good part. Naruto read on, and he had to admit seeing Sasuke turn bright red from embarrassment was hilarious. Choji had actually stopped eating and looked frozen. Shikamaru was trying to stare up at the clouds with a blush on his face. Kiba, however, was on the verge of a nosebleed but wanted to hear more. Naruto was thankful for the mask as well. Naruto, what are you doing? They turned to see Ino and a few of the other girls walking towards him looking a bit pissed. Just reading a story to Sasuke and I think he likes it. Naruto grinned. No I don't, you idiot, and get me out of here already, Sasuke said, still all red from what Naruto had read to him. He had never thought those kinds of things before, and he was seriously getting pissed off at still being stuck in the ground. Naruto, get Sasuke-kun out of there right this minute, Ino demanded at him. Fine, but finish the story for the guys, will you? Naruto handed her the book and she looked at it, curious as to what it was. Sakura and Hinata were also there and looked over the blood's shoulder and started to read over her shoulder. All three girls had to admit it looked like some kind of love story, something to do with some type of forbidden love of two members of opposing clans. It was very romantic how the two characters were admitting their love for the other, then kissed some more, and didn't stop. The girls got very red in the face and Hinata actually fainted at that point. Thankfully Sakura caught the girl as she was as red as her dress. Ino suddenly dropped the book like it was poison. Hey, careful, that's one of my dad's books, Naruto said, hauling Sasuke free. Ino marched right over to him and looked at him. Naruto saw the fury in her eyes and tried to say something in his defense but never got the chance to open his mouth as Ino slammed her fist into his face. You perverted hentai. The girls didn't talk to him for a week after that, although Hinata tried to talk but the images in her young mind kept making her faint when the subject came up, plus she couldn't look Naruto in the eyes after that. Although even she had to admit Naruto had the beating from Ino coming to him for that, although she did forgive him first out of the girls, Sakura lasted another week giving him the silent treatment until he apologized for the 100th time. As for Ino, well, he had to promise to help out with her chores at the flower shop for a week straight. That wasn't the last thing either. Naruto had discovered by his 12th year in life girls, women, and just how good they looked. It didn't help that when Kakashi tried to teach Naruto about the birds and the bees, he read his Ika Ika book to him. Although Naruto now knew more about sex than he ever wanted to know, although he personally didn't understand a few things like if it was really possible for a threesome to work in real life. When he was learning the hedge technique, he had been trying to find a way to beat his father in their sparring, and an idea formed. It took weeks of practice, but he finally got it down. The next time they spared, he unleashed one of his ultimate secret Eustace, the sexy jutsu. Kakashi had been so shocked to see a young teen and very cute and beautiful naked girl with such an irresistible pout on her face he didn't have time to recover when the hedge dropped and Naruto scored his first solid hit on his father. Kakashi looked up from his spot, not sure to be proud of his son's inventive nature, or he should wonder where he came up with that idea. He got up and dusted himself off and looked at his son, who he knew was grinning under that mask of his. He looked at him for a moment before speaking. I'm not even going to ask Naruto, but I'd be careful about that around certain people. It's my anti-pervert move, Dad. It works great on them. His son laughed. How do you know it works so well? Easy, I used it on the old man and several others and they were laid out with huge nosebleeds. It was great. Just don't use that in class. One don't need to come after school again this week, Kakashi said as he got himself ready. Okay, so now you got two choices, son. You either can do the 3 climbing exercise to improve your chakra control or sword fighting training. Naruto wasn't sure what was worse, the tree climbing he learned 6 months ago and it took him forever to get that down and it was boring. Although he did admit it did work really well, but although the sword training was a lot more fun, he usually ended up with lots of bumps and bruises. He ended up with the sword training he could heal quickly after all, so he didn't mind. Kakashi grinned under his mask as he was hoping for that. Now he could get him back for using that new technique on him. After a few hours, Naruto managed to end his training for the day and ended up walking around the village. He was still feeling some of the blows his dad had given him and was wondering if that was bordering on child abuse with the training at times. He was grumbling about his father not being able to take a joke and was wondering what he could do today. He knew that Kiba and Shino would be busy working with their families today. Ino and Sakura were most likely training today as well, and those two could be scary when they got into competitions. Hinata was getting some training with her father and little sister as well. Naruto thought about his best friend and was glad that she was back to her old self, although he missed Hana Hyuga when he visited the Hyuga home. Hinata's father was a bit more stern after that, but thankfully it seemed his brother was able to help curb that a little. Then he thought of Neji and a smile broke out under his mask. He had graduated last year and was put on a team of all people his uncle Guy. He laughed his ass off when Neji told him that. He actually felt a bit sorry for Neji. He knew that Guy could get a little overboard with training, but he was interested in meeting the team. There was this kid Lee that sounded nice and a girl Tenten as well. He hadn't seen his uncle Guy and Neji in a long time too with the missions they went on. He knew where they trained and he decided to take a little look to see what this team was like. Team Guy training grounds. In the field that Team Guy used, their sensei was currently teaching Lee some more taijutsu moves while Tenten was sparring with Neji, and he had to admit he liked this team. Sure, they were a bit unorthodox, but then again, knowing Guy beforehand helped to adjust faster. That is, he thought it would before him and Lee got this very close bond that led to some disturbing scenes. Although at the moment he had to concentrate, since if he wasn't, Tenten would cut him up to pieces. With his bloodline activated, he saw the incoming weapons and would step out of the way, or deflect them. She was very good. She moved with speed and agility and with such deadly accuracy that he actually wondered if she had any Hyuga blood in her family. She always would smile and laugh as they spared, even when he tried to remain focused and passive. In a way, she reminded him of Naruto, only less hyper and not as loud. She was easy to get to know, and even though he never told anyone, he actually found her attractive but never hinted at it. He knew the risks of getting involved with a teammate and also what it would mean down the line. The seal on his forehead was an ever-constant reminder of what awaited for his own children, and he didn't think a non-Hyuga would cope with that being done to their children. He was pulled out of his thoughts as he caught someone watching from a branch. He smirked to himself a little as he reached a pause in the sparring. Tenten, can you send a kunai 75 degrees high, and 15 to your right into that tree over there? He asked her and he saw her confusion. We have an uninvited guest. Now she understood and quickly threw her kunai into the leaves. A scream was heard as someone fell out of the tree and landed heavily onto the ground. The training stopped for the entire team as Tenten got a good look at the boy. He looked to be about a year or so younger than her, with blonde spiky hair and wore black pants with an orange stripe on the side, an orange t-shirt over a black vest with pockets and a black mask with 6 orange slash marks that looked like whiskers. Damn it, Neji, you told her to do that, didn't you? Naruto accused the older boy, pointing a finger at him. Oh, I didn't know you were there, Naruto. Neji said, faking innocent. Bullshit. She could have killed me. Hardly. Tenten can hit a target 100 times out of 100. Give her a target and she'll never miss. Neji said to Naruto, who paused for a moment to take that in as he was impressed with it, but then went into yelling at the boy a bit more. Tenten felt her cheeks slightly heat up at Neji's compliment of her abilities. It was nice to know he thought of her skills so highly. It was then that he took a good look at the girl with Chinese puns and a pink-styled shirt. You know, Neji, you never said you had such a pretty girl on your team. Tenten actually felt a slight blush on her cheeks from the compliment. She never focused on her looks, but it was still nice for a girl to hear that from a boy now and then. Neji, however, had a slight flash of emotion on his face that Naruto caught when Neji saw the girl blush from the compliment. Oh, so Neji may finally like a girl, huh? Oh, I so have to tell Hinata this. Maybe we can have some fun and break him out of that Hyuga shell of his. Naruto grinned under his mask, seeing Neji give him a slight glare. Ah, Naruto-kun, one of my most youthful friends. Guy jumped into the scene and took one of his poses. Hey Uncle Guy, how's the training going? Naruto asked. Wait, Uncle Guy? Tenten asked. She had no idea that Guy had any other family other than his parents. Actually, Naruto is the son of my friend and rival Kakashi Hitaki, but I've known Naruto-kun since he was a young boy and he thinks of me as an uncle. Guy told them. Wait, Kakashi. Wasn't that the guy you lost came to rock, paper, scissors too? Tenten asked. Naruto smiled under his mask. So what's the score? Is my dad ahead now? Kakashi may be ahead, but I will soon pull ahead of him and show him that the power of youth prevails over all, right Naruto? Guy said, and then noticed that Naruto was examining his fingernails. He looked up sharply. Huh. Oh, sorry, were you saying something, Uncle Guy? Guy face faltered at that and then jumped up. There's that hip and too cool attitude of your father. You should embrace the power of youth, Naruto. Neji just shook his head. He had seen this many times before, but still he had learned to enjoy the show when Naruto would act like Guy to get under his father's skin and then act like his father to do the same for Guy. It was also how he managed to convince the two adults into several competitions of his own choosing. He never forgot the one when they had to go from one end of the village to another balancing an egg on their noses, or the time he suggested wrestling a muddy pig. It's always the same with them, Neji sighed. Neji, how do you know this guy anyway? Tenten asked. He's friends with my cousin Hinata for years and well, he's sort of become a friend of the Hyuga clan, he explained to the weapons girl. Tenten was wondering how the kid managed to do that. It was rare for any clan to admit friendships to someone outside of the clan, and the Hyugas were no exception to that. Naruto, I want to introduce to you one of my prize pupils. This is Rock Lee. Guy said, introducing a young boy that looked almost exactly like a younger version of Guy. The boy had been waiting for the right moment to jump in and to introduce himself. I am Rock Lee and I'm honored to meet a family member of Guy Sensei. Even if you are not related by blood, I can see the fires of youth burning bright inside of you. Lee proclaimed to him and giving him his own pose with blinding smile and a thumbs up. Naruto looked at the boy for a moment before turning to Guy with a deadpan expression on his face. Uncle Guy, have you been performing illegal cloning experiments on yourself? Is he your secret love child or something, or did you turn someone normal into a copy of you? Tenten starting into fits of giggles, and Neji had a small smirk on his face with that one. Naruto, although I wish Lee was my child, sadly he is not, but he is a true genius of hard work just like you are, Naruto. Guy told him. At that, Lee's eyes lit up with fire. Naruto, is it true that you are a genius of hard work? There are many geniuses like Neji here who are gifted with talents for being a ninja, but then there are those of hard work that Guy Sensei says work hard to surpass others. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Well, that's what Uncle Guy always tells me, but I have to work hard if I want to be Hokage one day. Ah, that is a worthy dream. You truly are inspired to reach for great heights. My dream is to be a great ninja, even though I can't use ninjutsu or genjutsu, but I will not let that handicap me, and I will show them all that I will be a great ninja. Wait, you can't use either? Naruto asked, and learned of how Rock Lee's chakra coils were abnormally underdeveloped to the point he couldn't use them like a normal ninja. He listened, and yet this boy trained his heart out in taijutsu, and knowing Guy, he was training hard. Well, I guess then we have something in common then. I have abnormally large chakra reserves, or so my dad says, and he says that it also causes me to have the worst chakra control he's seen. It's hard for me to do the simple things because of all the chakra in my body. I still can't do a simple clone yet, and it took me forever to learn the other things. But I work hard to overcome that, and I will reach my dream of being Hokage. Tenten sighed. Great, now we got another one. I wouldn't dismiss Naruto just yet, he's not your normal or average ninja, Neji said to her, and she looked at him surprised. You see, when he was a small boy he managed to save my cousin from a kidnapping attempt and gravely injure a ninja. He also took a kunai to the chest and lived. Tenten's eyes widened at that and looked at the boy who was being challenged to a spar by Lee and who seemed excited for it as well. She was trying to figure out the puzzle that was Naruto Hatake, and she and Neji watched as Lee got into his usual fighting pose and Naruto got into one fighting poses that his father taught him. Guy of course was being the referee at this point and he called the match a go. Naruto leapt out first as Lee stood his ground. Naruto threw a punch only to have it intercepted, so he twisted with a kick and Lee jumped back. Naruto didn't stop though, he had to keep Lee moving and guessing as he tried to see what kind of fighter he was. Thanks to some training from Guy himself, he knew a bit of the style that Lee was using, but obviously Lee knew a lot more about it than he was. There was also something that caught his attention as they fought, and that was that Lee was really, really fast. He was definitely faster than he was, and when he felt a blow land there was some serious power to it. Naruto took a hit to his shoulder and went with a roll to take the shot and jumped back up facing Lee. It was times like this he wished he knew some offensive justice, but all he had was the training things like tree climbing and the academy stuff, with the exception of clones. Tenten and Neji watched with interest as Naruto took the pounding by Lee but just kept on going. In fact, Naruto managed to get Lee with an elbow strike to the ribs at one point when Lee left an opening for Naruto. Neji watched knowing that Naruto trained a lot and with different teachers. He could see the influence in his fighting style, which was a mix of various moves from Kakashi, Guy's own style, and what he assumed was from that woman Anko who really gave Neji the creeps. Tenten was impressed that a boy still in the academy was holding out so long against Lee. She had to admit the blonde certainly was giving Lee a workout, and she noticed that as the battle went on Naruto seemed to find more and more weaknesses in Lee's style. It wasn't much to give him an edge, but it did allow Naruto to dodge and get out of the way of the more powerful moves now and again. Man, how come you're so fast, Lee? I mean, I train a lot but I'm not that fast, Naruto said, ducking a whirlwind kick to his head. Guy-sensei has me on a special training regimen that increases my speed and strength, Lee said, dodging a few aerial kicks by Naruto. Hey Uncle Guy, how come you never tried that with me? Naruto asked him while fighting. Guy smiled and chuckled a bit. I did, but your father thought it was too much. Oh, how so? Ow. What the hell? Naruto had went for a block with a kick from Lee by kicking the boy's shin, but instead of flesh and bone there seemed to be something else covered by the orange leg warmers. Naruto was hoping on one foot, holding his shin, cursing as Lee stopped in respect. I'm sorry Naruto, I didn't meant for you to hit my leg weights. Leg weights? What kind of leg weights do you have on? Naruto asked, rubbing his shin. Lee looked to Guy and the man nodded his head, and so Lee pulled up the leg warmers and Naruto's jaw dropped. There was a huge set of weights hidden there, actual bricks of metal, and Naruto was thankful he didn't break his leg on it. Then another thought hit him as he saw the weights. In order to move as fast as he was without those weights, he would destroy him within seconds. For the first time, Naruto had met someone that was way above him, at least in speed and strength, that he would need to surpass. He made a mental note to talk to his father about weights for himself, although he didn't think he could handle those, at least not yet. Shall we stop for now, Naruto-kun? Lee asked him, although he was enjoying the fight. Naruto fought with such passion and intensity. It was very different from how Neji fought, always so controlled and centered. If Neji was a mountain, then Naruto was like the wind, and he had seen how Naruto refused to give up at all and only came back with more force and determination. He truly was a genius of hard work, and he wanted to see how much more Naruto could put into his fight. Naruto tested his leg and got back into his stance. Are you kidding? I'm only warming up. I'll just have to remember not to hit that part of your leg again. With that, both boys smiled and started their sparring match again under the watchful eye of the Guy, Tenten and Neji. Naruto tried every move he could think of, but so far nothing he had seemed to be able to put the other boy down. At one point he managed to duck, then roll under the older boy, and with a kick to the ground launched himself behind Lee, but Lee was prepared and grabbed Naruto's wrist and arm and flung him into the nearby trees. When Naruto was thrown into a tree, he thankfully had landed feet first and stuck there. He was glad all those months of practice and training with the tree climbing managed to stick him finally. He jumped off when Lee's fist made contact with the spot he had been at, shattering the wood. He flipped into the air and with a mid-air twist landed facing Lee. How the hell am I going to beat this guy? He's like a mini guy, and it's not like my dad has given me any justice that I can use on him. Hell, I only know of a couple and they wouldn't work on Lee. Damn it, Dad, why the hell couldn't you have taught me a fire one like Sasuke has? The only thing I have left is... Naruto suddenly got a brilliant idea into his head and went into a familiar hand sign. Neji saw this and he groaned and covered his face with his hand. He had seen this before and he didn't need to be reminded of it. Oh no, please, not that stupid thing. What's he going to do? Tenten asked him. She watched and then Naruto yelled out a name that she thought was sexy jutsu, but she swore she heard wrong. Then there was a puff of smoke and suddenly a very cute naked girl in smoke suddenly appeared. Lee froze in his spot as his young and innocent mind saw his first naked girl. He literally couldn't even think as his mind just stopped at the image. Guy yelled out in horror at the sight of it and Tenten looked mortified. Everything she had thought about the young boy was suddenly dashed at this blatant perverted act. She held onto her kunai very hard and was trying not to throw it at the boy. Naruto dispelled it and quickly sent a jab into Lee's chin, making the boy fall onto the ground with a stupid look on his face. Well, Naruto knew it was a cheap shot, but he honestly didn't know any other way to beat the older boy. He went over to make sure there were no hard feelings, but the boy just didn't respond to him. He prodded him with his foot and still Lee was there on the ground with that stupid look on his face. Oh, I think I broke him. Hey man, you okay? He picked him up by the shoulders, shaking him. Naruto. From that loud and deadly tone from Tenten, he dropped Lee and slowly looked around to see a very pissed off girl. She was suddenly having a small twitch in her left eye. What the hell kind of jutsu was that? Do you know how perverted and also how offensive that is to female ninjas? No, not really, Naruto said and quickly dodged a kunai being thrown at him. Thankfully, Anko gave him plenty of practice with avoiding. Wait, let me explain. Will you stop throwing those? Come on, Tenten, it was just a joke. Hey, that one nearly hit. How many weapons do you have on you anyway? Die, you pervert. Neji signed as he looked at Guy was trying to snap Lee out of his catatonic state and at Tenten trying to kill Naruto. He looked to the ground as his shoulders slumped. This was why I didn't want to introduce Naruto to my team. He's nothing but pure chaos. It was nearly the day of the final exams, the day they would all be ninja, and the kids were kind of excited over it all. But there was one person that was actually worrying, and that was Naruto of all people. He and his friends had been training all this time to make sure they all passed, as they were in a special training spot in the woods that Naruto had found a few years ago. There was a cabin where they could keep supplies and plenty of space to train. But Naruto, however, was having a large amount of difficulty with the one jutsu that would make him pass the test. He had his physical skills down now, and it took over a week for him to get the henge just right, but now he was having a lot of trouble with making clones. Whenever he tried it, they came out sickly and just lay there on the ground looking like death. He tried and yet he couldn't get it to work right. He was currently in the area with his friends and once again was trying to make a clone. There was the puff of smoke and he looked to his right hoping that this time he got it, but it was just another failed clone there. Damn it, why the hell can't I get this? Naruto shouted out in frustration. Naruto, what the hell is wrong with you? Ino asked, hands on her hips. She had changed her style over the years. Her hair was longer now into a ponytail and wore purple. Are you just messing around or what? I'm not, Ino, it's hard. I did it after 2 days, so why can't you do it? Ino asked, getting irritated with her friend. How can you be so good in so many things and yet suck so much at other things? I don't know, if I did I would figure out a way around it already. Naruto sighed and slumped his shoulder, feeling a little depressed. I'm still surprised you can still try and make clones. I'd be too tired to stand with how long you've been at it. Ino sighed as she sat down on the ground. Shikamaru, who was as usual on the ground, turned his head to face Naruto as something clicked in his head. In all the time that he had known Naruto, he seemed to have nearly unlimited energy, and he was wondering, is his chakra mirrored that? Naruto, how much chakra is you using? Naruto scratched the back of his head thinking about it. I don't know, I just use whatever I can. Naruto, chided Sakura at him, you have to use a set amount for clones, didn't you pay attention to that in class? Sakura had also grown over the years. She chided Naruto at times and she kept him in line. The young crush she had on the boy was still there, but she wasn't sure if she liked Naruto as a friend or more these days. It didn't help matters that Naruto seemed to have taken up a slightly perverted side that annoyed her to no end. Her hair was still short. She had thought of making it long like Ino since she heard Sasuke liked long-haired girls, but she had asked him if she looked better with long hair. He only grunted and walked off. Naruto had commented that she looked cute with short hair, so she went with Naruto since he was honest about these things. Okay, so he could be really sweet when he wasn't being an idiot or perverted. Sometimes she wondered why the top 2 boys in the class had to be so difficult. Sasuke was handsome and intelligent, strong and cool. But he was so cold to everyone and you couldn't get close to him. Naruto was the opposite of that, he radiated warmth and made you smile. Too bad he sometimes was too hyper, his pranks were childish, even though she did find a few of them very funny, and the aforementioned moments of being an idiot and perverted. It was like Naruto was the sun and Sasuke was the moon, and sometimes she felt that both were just unattainable. Why can't both boys be more like the other? She thought to herself. Yeah, that would be great if they were one boy. They would be totally hot. Inner Sakura agreed. Sakura mentally sighed and wondered if this inner persona was the result of some childhood trauma making her have a partial case of multiple personality syndrome. Hey Hinata, why don't you see how much chakra he's using with your eyes? Sakura asked the shy girl as the idea hit her. I mean, maybe you can tell how much he's using and he can use that as a way to help him judge how much he's using. That's actually a good idea, Shikamaru said, sitting up slightly. With a baseline, Naruto might finally be able to tell how much chakra he's using for once. Cool. Come on Hinata, let's see if you can help me out. Naruto said, smiling at the young girl. If only he knew what his smiled even behind the mask did to her. She gulped, feeling a little bit of pressure. She really wanted to help Naruto, after all she owed him so much, and she wanted him to see her as maybe more as a friend. Over the years her affection for Naruto had grown over time. He had been there through her long hard period after her mother's death, spending a lot of time with her and helping her out. Sometimes he would even hug her when she was feeling low, although that caused her to blush very much and nearly pass out from all the happy feelings that made. He also helped her with Hanabi too. Although Hanabi was 5 years her junior, she was very strong for her age, and Hinata was a bit envious that she was that strong. Her father had hardened a bit over the years. He never really smiled anymore, but with her uncle around he wasn't as bad as he might have been. She had been afraid that her mother's death would have hit him so hard that he would have never recovered, and in a way he never had. It was like most of the light in his life was gone, and she felt sad for her father. He never showed it, but she knew that he was hurting every day that she was gone. She faced Naruto and made a hand seal and activated her eyes. She saw the world in black and white like a photonegative, and for the people she could see their chakra network, the blue lines that ran over their bodies. She watched as Naruto gathered up his chakra and she saw it was too much. Wait Naruto-kun, that's too much. She told him and he stopped. Huh, that's too much? He asked her, confused, and she nodded her head. He sighed and tried it again, but again she told him he was using too much. This went on for 5 more times before Ino was getting very frustrated with this whole affair. Damn it, just use as little chakra as you can. Ino yelled out, losing her patience. That is the least amount that I can use, Ino. What do you think I've been trying? He yelled back at her. Hinata, how much was that? Sakura asked the young girl, wondering just how much chakra Naruto had. Hinata began playing with her fingertips, looking down, about twice what Ino uses normally. Ino's eyebrows shot up from that, as did Shino and Shikamaru's. He's using twice as much as me normally. How the hell can he use that much, and that's the small amount? Okay, sure, I don't have the most amount, but I still got an average amount, and you're telling us that he's using double. Hinata nodded her head. Shikamaru sighed. Man, what a drag, no wonder you can't get this, Naruto. Until you learn how to limit the amount you use, I doubt that you'll ever get the chance to actually use it properly. You need a low amount to make a clone, that's one of the reasons they teach us this move. But if you use too much it won't work, so that means... Yeah, it means what? Naruto asked him. You're screwed, and with that he laid back onto the ground. Naruto looked at his friend and heard Kiba snicker at the comment. He shot Kiba a glare before glaring at the lazy boy. That's it. I'm screwed, that's all you can say. Well, what do you want? I can't make it so you can use less chakra, and I don't know how you can do it without a lot of practice and training. He responded. But the test is at the end of the week. That's only 4 days, I'll never get it down by 4 days. Given how long it took him to learn how to tree climb, learning a whole new way of controlling his chakra in the given amount of time was nearly impossible. He was really worried that because of this he wouldn't be able to graduate with the others, and he really wanted to become a ninja along with all his friends. Hinata saw the worry in him and wished that she could have done more to help him. She was wondering what she could do to help him, and then an idea entered her mind. They weren't that experienced, but there were others that were, and perhaps that Naruto's father would have some ideas. Naruto-kun, what about your father? Would he have any ideas on how to do this? She asked him. Naruto looked shocked, but it was just that he felt stupid with not asking his dad sooner. He beamed at her and quickly jumped over to her and gave her a huge hug. Hinata-chan, you're the best. He didn't hear the soft, eep sound that she made when he grabbed her or how she was blushing bright red. She felt lightheaded with him hugging her like this, and it felt nice as well. She could feel his warm body pressed up against hers and the warmth of the emotions even. It felt so good and she wished she could move her arms to hug him back. A part of her mind wanted to hug him back so much, and much more as well. She had dreams like this. First the hugging would come and then he would look into her eyes with those bright blue and wonderful eyes of his. He would tell her how beautiful and strong she was and that he loved her. She could tell him that she loved him too, and he would gently pull down his mask and she would see that cute face with the whisker marks on it again. He would smile that smile of his that melted her heart and made her legs shake, and their lips would gently touch. But as soon as it happened it was gone. The hug ended and so did her little daydream with it, and Naruto was running off to see his father. Hinata, however, was swaying back and forth feeling all warm from his embrace, and a smile was on her face, from the hug and from her own thoughts she had just had. "Nen Naruto-kun," she said softly before he fainted and landed onto the soft grass. Kiba and Shino went to her quickly, as did Choji, as they made sure that she was okay. Ino sighed and shook her head. Boy, that girl has it bad for him. Should we tell him that his best friend has a huge crush on him, because I honestly don't know when he'll figure it out. It's too troublesome. Shikamaru sighed, thinking on just what it would take to get Hinata to admit to her own feelings, let alone to Naruto. Gave him a headache just thinking about it. Everyone knew about Hinata's crush on Naruto with the exception of the blonde. As they helped her up, Sakura had a worried look on her face. She did like Naruto, but she didn't want to hurt Hinata given that she was a close friend. She had nearly lost her friendship with Ino over Sasuke, but thanks to Naruto smoothing things out between them, they were still friends. She still wore the red ribbon Ino had given her years ago, and yes, they both chased after Sasuke from time to time, but Sakura's attention was split, so it wasn't with her whole heart that she went after Sasuke, and Ino guessed that meant less competition for the dark boy's affections. Not that Ino or any other girl seemed to get any. Naruto made a joke about him being gay, and both Ino and Sakura had hit him for it. Plus the other girls of the Uchiha fan club gave him death glares for even suggesting that the boy they all crushed on was gay, and they had no chance whatsoever with him. At any rate, until her heart was made up, she had no idea which boy to go after, but she wouldn't lose a friendship over it. She watched as Choji and Shino trying to wake the young girl up, and if she chose to go after Naruto she would give the young girl a fight, but she would be fair about it. She would give the other girl a chance to at least admit her feelings to the boy and see where it went. After all, maybe Naruto would only like Hinata as a friend. But what if he likes us only as a friend? Ina, Sakura said with a hint of worry. Sakura bit her lip but decided she could live with that. After all, there was still Sasuke after all. It took some time, but they managed to get Hinata to wake up, and she felt embarrassed over what had happened to her. She really wished she could stop doing that, but it was just so hard for her. Hinata walked home by herself feeling slightly embarrassed that she had fainted like that in front of everyone, but it was just whenever Naruto was that close when he did things like that, it always made her heart pound so loud she could hear it and feel it. She just totally lost it, and she wished she could just gather the strength to tell him how she felt and to be able to not faint. She sighed. Out of all of her friends she felt that she hadn't changed much. Although she had taken an interest in medicine shortly after her mother's death, but mainly just medical herbs and such things like that, she didn't want to become a medical nin. But a good idea on healing salves, potions and antidotes had become a new hobby for her. Sakura and Ino helped her with an herb garden on the Hyuga compound that she maintained to help her with that. Even Naruto helped out from time to time, much to her joy. She walked into her room taking off her jacket that she had been wearing for a few years now. What no one knew was just how well developed the girl had become over the years, but she was too shy to show it, hence why she always wear large clothing. Well, that, and she felt it was just very comfortable as well. She heard someone walk up to her door and looked to see her younger sister Hanabi. She looked very much like their mother hand, although she could see a bit of their father in her. She looked like she had just finished a training routine. Hanabi was always training very hard. She knew it was in part from their father trying to ensure his daughters were strong in life, but also she suspected it was because Hanabi didn't want to be put into the branch family like their uncle had been. There might have been some animosity in them, but there wasn't. They weren't as close as she would have liked, as Hanabi acted a lot like their father, so she reserved herself a lot of the time. Hello, Nei-chan. Hello, Hanabi-chan, how was practice with uncle? He was helping me with forms today. It was hard, but he says that I've been improving a lot lately. Hanabi then noticed some dirt on Hinata's jacket and she tiled her head a bit. Were you training as well, sister? Hinata looked confused and then Hanabi pointed out the dirt and she grew bright red seeing the dirt there from when she had fallen onto the ground. IWW was with my friends and ISS sort of fell. Hanabi knew what that meant having seen it happen before. You really should tell Naruto-ni-san how you feel. Hanabi had known Naruto all her life and even though she had never seen what was behind that mask he was always there for her big sister and her. She could remember Naruto and Hinata looking after her and even training with her. He was also one of the few people that could make her laugh or smile with his antics. He was always there and over the years she thought of him as the big brother she didn't have. It was also painfully obvious that her older sister had feelings for him and she secretly wished that they would get together. Although she didn't like boys, Naruto was another story. He was good to her family and her sister obviously looked up to him and was totally smitten by him. Plus if Hinata and Naruto got married then he really would be her older brother even if her brother-in-law. Hinata looked down as she did that thing with her fingers again. I want to tell him, BB, but what if he doesn't feel the same? I know he kind of likes SS Sakura and he's got all those other girls after him and they're stronger and prettier than I am. Hanabi hated it when her sister got like this, it honestly just pissed her off. Where is your Hyuga pride, sister? You are a Hyuga of the main family and the heiress of our clan. You are above those other girls and you should show it. If you want Naruto-ni-san then take him as yours as if it were your right. If he doesn't feel the same then he's an idiot for turning down a Hyuga since we don't give our hearts to those outside the clan freely. Hinata felt a bit ashamed and not for the first time she wished that Hanabi was the heiress and not her. Hanabi even though younger was more confident and stronger and would make for an excellent leader. But she couldn't even get the courage to tell the boy she had liked for years that she liked him and wanted more than just friendship. Not for the first time she wished she was stronger and that she wished her mother was still alive to go to and get advice from. She couldn't go to her father or uncle because it would be awkward for both parties. I just wish I knew I had a chance. I don't want to lose him, Hinata said in a low and soft voice. Hanabi heard it anyway and sighed. If you don't do something you'll lose him anyway. Hitaki home. Kakashi was sitting at home reading one of his novels again. He loved the books. Yes, they did have some dirty adult content, but that was besides the point. Well, okay, it was also a big selling point as well since he had learned some very interesting techniques from the book. Hard to believe that the writer of these books was the sensei to his sensei, but then again he remembered a few times when Minato tried to act a bit perverted around his then girlfriend, and later future wife. The poor blonde man never knew what hit him sometimes. He sighed remembering them and he hoped that he was doing well by Naruto. He wanted to protect Naruto more than anything and not just because it was out of duty and loyalty for the man that had been like a second father to him. He honestly did love Naruto like a son. It was strange but Naruto helped him to ease away the loneliness of his life had become. With his two best friends and teammates killed, his father dead, and then his teacher his life had been so empty. He booked down his book remembering his birthdays, how the Hokage sometimes liked to have Naruto in his office to babysit while he had been on a mission. Naruto said he liked it because he could learn how to become a Hokage himself one day. He remembered the first time he met Hinata and he could see the bond that had formed over the years with those two. But Naruto had lots of friends now and an extended family as well. He had to admit things were never dull in his life, although he did like the quiet moments such as now. A sudden banging sound of the front door was heard all over the home and Naruto's loud voice calling out to him. Kakashi sighed knowing that the only quiet he would get when Naruto was at school. He casually walked to find his son running through the house looking for him. Dad, I need your help with something important. What is it, son? Kakashi asked him. I can't do a clone because I can't use as little chakra as the other kids, but I need to make a clone or else I won't graduate, and I want to pass with all my friends. Can't you teach me something that will help me pass? Come on, there's got to be some trick you can help me use less chakra or something. How about some type of restraining chakra thing, or maybe some kind of jutsu that can get me around it? Kakashi blinked, wondering how he could have said all that in a rush in just one lungful of air. He shook his head and started to think about it. He knew this issue would come up. Naruto's chakra control was bad at the best of times, but he had gained more control now after years of practice. But he still had trouble with the simpler stuff because of the limited amount of chakra you needed to put into it. Basically, it was like trying to force a ton of water through a small pipe. Kakashi knew that the test was coming up and he didn't want to see Naruto fail. But in order to get his chakra control that good would take a lot longer than he needed to train Naruto for this. If only there was a way around doing a simple clone then, an idea hit him. Naruto, you said that it's a clone test, right? Kakashi asked him and the blonde nodded his head quickly, looking up expectedly. Any type of clone at all? Naruto thought about that one. All Iruka-sensei said was the tests would be physical skills outside, then a written one, a henge and finally a clone, but he didn't say what kind. Hey, are there different kinds of clones? Kakashi nodded his head. Yes there are, and I could teach you one, but you have to understand, Naruto, this clone isn't the typical one. It can be dangerous and no one your age should even attempt it, but with your high concentration of chakra you might just be able to pull this off. Kakashi wasn't kidding about this being dangerous, but desperate times called for desperate measures. He had been hoping that Naruto would have gotten enough control to do a simple clone, but it looked like he might have to teach him this one. He could use another type of clone than the one he had in mind, but in all honesty he felt that Naruto could learn it. Besides, there was a bit of his pride telling him how great it would be for his son to learn such a high-level jutsu in such a short time. It's going to be a lot of hard work, Naruto, and if you can't handle it I'll call it off, understood? He said in all seriousness. Naruto looked up at him, not backing down from his challenge. I can do it, Dad. I don't care what it takes, I will pass and be a ninja and I'll make you proud of me. I already am proud of you, Naruto, Kakashi thought to himself with a smile. Alright then, let's get you started on training for the new clone technique. This Naruto is called the Shadow Clone Jutsu. That will be it for this video. If you want more, comment down below, like, subscribe. And see you guys later.